I've been working on my Blitz 41 computerized implementation of Fire in the East and Scorched Earth for quite a while now. It's a big project, big game, lots of stuff going on. Among other things, the replacement system here is more complicated, larger, and more complicated than any of the other scenarios that I've worked on. With factories, special replacements, multiple types of ordinary replacement points, military districts, replacement cities, on and on it goes. Lots of oddities, lots of special rules, lots of complications like fragile divisions and so forth. So it's taken me quite a bit of time to try to put this together. It's almost finished, not quite. I'm still debugging it. I need to add a couple more things. I haven't done any coding for disbanding units yet. Haven't done unit conversions yet, although I think that part should be pretty simple. I've did that previously in Blue 42 and Dawn 42, so I think I could handle that pretty easily. But what I have now, I think, is worth putting together a demo, and that's indeed what this is, a demo. As you can see already with that German unit sitting on the outskirts of Leningrad in the June 2, 1941 turn, this is not quite the historical situation, and that's because just for demo purposes, I've done a lot of unusual, odd things just to make it useful for showing how different parts of the replacements system will work. For example, I've got that German unit close to Leningrad. I have some factories already prepared for evacuation, even though that shouldn't be happening in June 2, 1941. I've moved around some Soviet units into particular places. I've taken the entire Soviet starting lineup, and all of those units are either in the replacement pool, or if they have a cadre, they've been converted to a cadre. So some things you're going to see that won't really make any sense at all within the normal flow of the game. This stuff should not be happening in June 2, 1941. But just for purposes of demo, I arranged things so I could get to this stuff easily and show all these things in a kind of simple manner without working through a whole lot of turns to get to different stuff. So where we are then is this is the exploitation phase of the Axis June 2, 1941 turn. So the German player has already done his surprise attack and his June 2 attacks and his June 2 exploitation. So we're ready to end that exploitation phase, which will end the Axis player turn and move us into the Soviet player turn for June 2, 1941, set up in an odd way for demo purposes. And we'll take a look at how this replacement system looks from a Soviet point of view. So the first thing that we'll do over here is click to end the Axis player turn. As always, it makes us stop and think about that. Do you really want to end this player turn? Have you thought about all these other things? And we'll say it's okay, we do really want to end the player turn. And so now the system takes us into the Soviet player turn, gives us some information about what's going on, weather, air factors available, rail capacity, and so forth. We'll close that. And the first thing that comes up at the very beginning of the turn is the factory situation. The highlighted lines are railroads that are Soviet owned at this moment. You can see there's some places here, and this is just to help with the evacuation of factories. This is one of the first things that I had to do in a non-standard manner. The Blitz 41 scenario does not really last as long as the Fire in the East game. My scenario ends at the end of September. As a consequence, there's no real motivation for the Soviet player to do his factory evacuations. And in an actual game, sometimes you want to evacuate your factories. There'll be a period when they're not producing at all, but it's better to have a period when they're not producing than to lose them and never have them produce again. In the scenario, yeah, it doesn't matter because the scenario will end before factories can get back into production. So there's no sense in preparing them for evacuation and taking them out of production. You might as well just let them produce as long as possible. And when they're lost, no big deal. So I needed a mechanism to force factories to prepare for evacuation. And that mechanism that I devised is when German units close to within a certain proximity of a factory, and the system will roll the dice to see if it gets prepared for evacuation. And that's why I've stuck the German unit here near Leningrad, because it's going to be triggering some things in a minute. In the meantime, I artificially set up the Kharkov factory as being prepared for evacuation right from the get-go. Obviously, that doesn't really happen in the game. It's just one of the artificial adjustments that I've made for this demo. And we can see here the information that it's going to cost 30 REs of rail capacity to evacuate any given factory, and there are only 45 REs available to the Soviet player at this stage of the game. This is another thing that I'm still thinking about. Frankly, there is really no incentive for the Soviet player to evacuate and spend those 30 REs, 30 REs of rail cap, because that factory is never going to produce again within the context of this scenario. Whether it just sits in Kharkov prepared for evacuation, or whether it really does evacuate, it will never get back into production before the scenario ends. So I'm still thinking about how I really want to handle that. For the moment, the player gets to make the decision: do you want to evacuate the factory to the Urals, or do you want to delay it and wait and do that at a later turn? So we're going to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and evacuate it, although we're just basically wasting 30 REs of rail cap, no particular reason to do it. So we'll confirm that evacuation. Now it tells us it's just rolled to see that the Leningrad factory is in danger, and that's because I artificially stuck that German unit near Leningrad, and the Leningrad factory is now successfully prepared for evacuation. So we'll close that alert, and we can see the situation on all the Soviet factories now. And again, this is set up artificially. So the Leningrad factory, it's warning us it is now newly prepared for evacuation. That just happened. The Leningrad factory location is still right there in Leningrad. The status, the level rather, is 1. That means that the production capacity has not been upgraded, which happens eventually according to the order of appearance. The status is prepared for evacuation. And just to show how it works, I have artificially put 2 bomb hits on Leningrad. The rules as written say that if a factory suffers 3 bomb hits in a turn, then it goes temporarily out of production for the upcoming turn, which would be this turn for the Soviet player. Moscow factory is still in Moscow. It's at level 2. Now, it's not really there at the start of the game. I just pumped it up a little bit to get some RPs available for some things we're going to look at later. Status in production, no bomb hits. Tula, level 1 in production, but it has 3 bomb hits. Now, Tula could not really have 3 bomb hits this early in the game. I don't think that's possible to happen at all. But I did it artificially just to show you get this message in red that, this factory is now bombed out for this turn. Those hits will then go away, and unless more hits are put on it, it'll be back in production for the next turn. And that's all. Rules as written, just played out here in the computerized version. The Kharkov factory is the one that we just evacuated just a moment ago. So it's now in the Urals. The status is it's rebuilding, and it will resume production in October of 1941, which is just after my Blitz 41 scenario ends, so the Soviet player will never see production from that factory again. Stalingrad factory in production at level 2, Rostov in production at level 2, and again, they really should be at level 1 at this stage of the game, but they've been artificially changed to level 2. And the Urals factory, level 1 in production, no bomb hits. All right, so those are factories, and of course, they are actually cranking out armor and artillery RPs, at least the ones that are in production and not bombed out, are cranking out the armor and the artillery RPs right now. So let's continue. This takes us into the reinforcements part of the initial phase. We can see supply points because I'm playing with my experimental depots and supply points rules. It's showing that we're getting all these supply points for the Soviet player. We won't really worry about those because we're concentrating on the replacement system here. For the Soviet Air Force, the VVS, no new air points this turn. Total available is 89. Conditional reinforcements. This is another reason why I put the German unit up here near Leningrad, because according to the rules for conditional reinforcements, if a German unit gets that close to Leningrad, then these 3 NKVD rifle divisions are triggered as conditional reinforcements, and they show up there in the center hex of Leningrad. You wouldn't really expect to see those guys there on the June 2, 1941 turn, but I wanted to show that off. So now we can go down here. Let's take a look at some of these other things. There are a bunch of reinforcement units that are arriving. And again, these are not really arriving on this turn. I just wanted to show what it looks like. If we run, I think we can do this. We can run down here and see at Kiev, for example. Whoops, didn't mean to click on that. If we look at Kiev, we can see this unit is over here in Kiev. Let's put this back up to here. So that's the reinforcements phase. And let's just go past that. There's nothing we can do. So now that we've looked at it, we'll just continue and go into the special replacements. And special replacements, let's just move this over a little bit. Special replacements, I've handled in a completely non-standard fashion here. And I wrote a piece about this that if you go to my Europa website, you can read about how I've done it. What it basically means is that when units are eliminated in play due to combat or whatever, and special replacements are generated, unlike the rules as written, they don't go into the ordinary replacement pool for bringing back units from the replacement pool, that is, units that have been eliminated, or rebuilding cadres on the map to full strength. Instead, special replacements reappear on the map in the following player turn as 115 remnant units. And so you can see, and they appear in or near the hex of the supply depot to which they are attached. So effectively, you could say that back near the area headquarters, whether that's the Army headquarters or the front headquarters or whatever, they are rounding up remnants of destroyed units and immediately forming them into ad hoc formations and throwing them back into combat in the area near where they were eliminated. So because I played just a small part of the front in order to get set up for this demo, basically just here in the Baltics, we can see that these special replacements have been used to generate these 115 rifle groups that represent the remnants of destroyed units. Some people might find that to be an interesting approach, and some people might say, why the heck did you disobey the real rules? But I kind of like this better, so that's what I did. All right, so that's special replacements. Again, nothing we can really do about that. It's just showing us what's happened. So we will continue. And now this takes us into the regular replacement part of the beginning of the Soviet player turn for June 2, 1941. So what's going on here? So first of all, these are replacements that are currently accumulated from factories and replacement cities. From factory production, there are two general pools of RPs, one pool for armor and one pool for artillery. Currently, we have 8 armor RPs and 8 artillery RPs. When they get spent to either resurrect eliminated units from the replacement pool or rebuild cadres that are on the map, those units are in or will be in a city that has a factory. On the other hand, we have infantry replacements that are generated within each military district. So each district has its own pool of infantry RPs, and when infantry RPs are expended, the units are either in or will be in one of the cities in that particular military district. So that gives us all these military districts to play with, and we have 8 armor RPs, 8 artillery RPs, and we have varying numbers of infantry RPs within each individual military district. Also have to think about the fact that we have limits on the maximum number of REs of specified units that can be replaced, and that is either resurrected or rebuilt at this time. So this is kind of odd to me, but I tried to play it according to the rules. So for cavalry REs, you get a maximum of 6 REs per turn. For combat or assault engineers, you get a maximum of 1 per month, 1 RE per month. Mountain REs, a maximum of 3 per month, and for paratrooper, and that's airdroppable REs, 1 maximum per game. None have been spent at all, so we still have 6 available, 1 available, 3 available, 1 available. We have the maximum numbers are available at this moment. So in order to actually go through the replacement process, we can click on any one of these links. So each district, you can go into the district and either resurrect eliminated units, and they'll come back in that district, or you can go into a military district to rebuild any cadres that are still on the map, and they will be rebuilt in the city where the unit is currently placed. While we're in a military district, we have available within that district its own infantry RP pool, not any of the other infantry RPs, but we also have available to it the entire remaining pools of armor and artillery that came from factories. So kind of confusing, and as you're going to see, it's also going to be very dependent on what units are available to replace. You might have plenty of RPs in a district, but no units to spend those RPs on, in which case you have to save them. You might want to save them anyway, but in some cases you'll probably have no choice except to save them. For this demo, I've really pumped it up because I think I mentioned earlier, I artificially took every Soviet unit in the starting lineup and either put it in the replacement pool or flipped it to a cadre in a city on the map. So that should give us plenty of stuff that's available to mess around with to see how this works. So we'll just take a look at some of these. We'll go into the Baltic Military District and see what's on the map. None here. That's not unusual because so many of these units are subject to special limitations, particularly the fragile units limitation. At this point in the game, the majority of Soviet units that actually have cadres, which could be rebuilt, are tank divisions. And tank divisions are not allowed to be rebuilt at all. They can't be rebuilt to any strength, and they can't be resurrected from the replacement pool when they're eliminated. So there are relatively few units that fit all of the necessary criteria to be rebuilt from cadre to some strength. Let's check another military district. And in Kharkov, nothing there. I think we will find some. In Kiev, all right. So in Kiev, this is actually a very odd one, but we'll take a look at it. So the 81st Mechanized Division was turned into a cadre, which according to my calculations, and maybe my calculations are wrong, is a 328 supported cadre. Now, mechanized divisions can never be brought back to their original full strength. They can only be rebuilt or resurrected to a 336 infantry division. So there's really not a whole lot of sense to doing this. What's especially odd is that because it rebuilds to a 336 infantry, that means it's going to cost infantry RPs. But how many RPs? Well, I told you this was an odd one. It's because that cadre is already at 3 and would be rebuilding to a 3, so it would actually cost 0 RPs to switch that over if you would rather have a 336 infantry division as opposed to a 328 mechanized cadre. You probably don't want to do that even though it's free. There are only 1 or 2 divisions in that situation in here. We just happened to run across an oddball when we looked at the Kiev military district. Let's go to another district and see if we can find something that's not quite so odd. In Leningrad, okay, here we have the 70th Rifle Cadre. It's a 226. I know that 70th Rifle started out as a 666 rifle division. It's currently at the cadre level, and if we want to rebuild it, it's another fragile unit. So it can't be rebuilt to the 666 level, but it can be rebuilt to an ordinary 336 infantry division. So if you'd rather have a 336 infantry division as opposed to a 226 rifle cadre, then you can pay 1 RP and rebuild that unit in that hex in Leningrad. But before we actually do any of that, let's just scan through here a little bit more. Moscow, same thing. We have 2 rifle divisions that are fragile, so they can't be rebuilt to their original full strength. They can only be rebuilt to their fragile strength, I guess is what you would call it, of a 336. North Caucasus, let's see what's going on here. Same thing. We have another one of those relatively strong rifle divisions that is fragile and can't be rebuilt to full strength. Odessa, nothing at all qualified there. Orel, nothing there. And if we go down to the Western Military District, nothing there. So that just gives you an idea. And we'll actually rebuild some of those in a moment to give you an idea that in terms of rebuilding cadres at this stage of the war, the Soviet player is not going to find a lot of cadres that can be rebuilt, mostly because of the fragility rules. So instead of rebuilding cadres, maybe we want to focus on resurrecting eliminated units. So let's just take a look and see what that would mean. And the Baltic Military District has 1 infantry RP available. And of course, it will also have access to the armor and the artillery RPs that are in the general pools for the Soviet player. So let's go take a look at this. And in here we can see, and it's reminding us what kind of points we have available. And here we can see all of these units that are available to be replaced. Now, we know we have a ton of 336 infantry divisions that have been eliminated and are in the replacement pool, why aren't they showing up in this list of units that can be resurrected in the Baltic Military District? Well, the reason is that we have only one infantry RP that's available. So anything that costs more than one infantry RP doesn't even show up in the list. There's no sense teasing the Soviet player because you can't bring it back in this district because there are not enough RPs, not enough infantry RPs. Now, on the other hand, when you look at this, you might notice there's a pattern here. These parachute infantry brigades, there are 3 of them. The 238 anti-tank brigades, there's 3 of them. 128 motorcycle regiments, 3 of them. Construction brigades, there's 3 of them, maximum of 3. Now, I can pretty much assure you that there are many more than 3 of each one of those particular strength and kinds of units that are in the replacement pool right now. So many of them are in the replacement pool right now, in fact, that it would make this list unnecessarily long if we really stretched it out and put everything in here. So what I've done for gameplay purposes is I limit this to a maximum of 3 of any one type of unit of the same strength. If we go up here to, let's look at Moscow, for example, with 7 infantry RPs, and we can see that if we wanted to, we could take a whole ton of, not that we would really want to do it, but let me get down here and find them, of these construction regiments. We have 7 RPs available. We could take 7 construction regiments and bring them back, but there are only 3 listed here. Well, if we want more, what we do is we pick these 3, we expend our 3 RPs, and then we come right back around and we can pick 3 more, then we come right back around and pick another one. But to put 7 of them in here just seemed a bit excessive. So you can still get as many as you want, but there will never be more than 3 identical units showing up in this list of eliminated units at any time. All right, so that's probably enough wasting of words about what's going on. Let's actually try to do some stuff here. So where were we? Let's go over here to North Caucasus. We've got the 157th Rifle Cadre that would come back as because it was originally fragile, come back as a 336. Let's go ahead and take that. We'll confirm it. It says, okay, you're going to rebuild that. A new link shows up, by the way, now that we actually have resurrected or rebuilt somebody. We have this, and we can look and see. Here's the unit that we just got back. And in fact, if I run over here a bit, I think, didn't we do that in Rostov? We did do that in Rostov. So when I mouse over that, it shows that Rostov is where it's happened. In fact, while I'm at it, I'm going to just bring this over here so that it's easier to see what's going on. So we'll go back to selecting units, and we will say, let's go back into the North Caucasus district. We still have 1 infantry available. If we try to rebuild a cadre, there's nothing available. So we'll see about resurrecting somebody. Well, we can spend 1 RP, 1 infantry RP in here, or we could start spending our artillery and armor RPs. Let's see anything of interest here. Really not much in here. Let's go ahead and take this guy. We'll confirm that. Oh, and it says that we've reached the RE limit for paratroops resurrected for this game. So no one will be able to resurrect or rebuild any more para units. And it shows now that it's resurrected. Let's say that's enough in that military district. Let's go into Moscow where things might be a little more interesting. And let's get these 2 guys back. They'll come back as 336s, even though they were originally stronger. We'll confirm rebuilding those cadres. We'll come in here. Let's go over and see what we can do in the replacement pool here. And we still have 4. So let's take this mountain cavalry with our infantry, and let's start getting with armor. We probably should save the armor, but we'll grab a bunch of motorcycle, which seems to qualify as armor if I understand the rules correctly, and we'll confirm that. And we've reached the limit for mountain troops, and these guys are coming back. And what do we have here still? We have no more infantry, but we have 3 armor and 8 artillery. So let's go down in here and 2. Well, that's probably not really the stuff we want. Let's go in here and say a 3, and a 2. We confirm that. All right, so we have 3 armors left. We have no artillery left and no infantry left. So now it's only showing us, and that is for this military district, we only have the 3 armor left. So it's only showing us armor RPs. And let's just switch over to another district. Baltic, we'll go here, and we can take, how about an engineer? We'll confirm that. Now we've reached our engineer limit, so there won't be any combat or assault engineers that anybody can pick. The Baltic Military District has used all of its infantry. It still has, from the general pool of armor, it has 3 RPs. What the heck? This is probably not a good thing to do, but we'll go ahead and take those. We've resurrected those units. So now we're starting to see some military districts where we can't do anything. If, by the way, we take a look at the display here, we can see this is everybody who's coming back so far. Go here. So Kharkov, we have 3 RPs. Let's resurrect somebody there. Let's take this cavalry. We'll confirm that. Well, now we've reached the limit for cavalry because the limit is 6 REs. We had already taken 3. We just took 3 more. So now no more cavalry can be selected this turn. Let's go into Kiev. So there's no artillery. There's no armor. Kiev has 3 infantry available. But we've hit the limit for cavalry, for engineers, for mountain units, and for para units. So the only thing that we can pick will be infantry. And with those 3 infantry, we could take this guy and this guy. And I guess there's not much else we can take. I don't really want that railroad engineer, so we'll take that. What the heck? Just to show how it works. So I used up too many, and it says no, you can't do that. You only have 3 available, and you tried to pick too many, so forget it. So I'm going to go in here and just take this. We'll confirm that. What's happening in Leningrad? So in Leningrad, we can take 3 infantry, and I could take some of these guys. I'll take the Marines just for the heck of it. We'll confirm that. And as you can see, we're running out of stuff here. Odessa, so we have 4 infantry RPs available. So, oh, look, there's a 4-6. We'll take that guy. We'll confirm him. The reason we hadn't seen him previously, or hadn't seen him much previously, is because most military districts didn't have enough infantry RPs to bring him back. Orel only has 1 infantry RP, so there won't be much of use here. Probably it's really better not to spend this. It's better to save it and accumulate that RP for a later turn, but I'm going to spend it just to prove that I can do it. We'll go into the Transcaucasus. Good. We've got something here. We'll confirm picking that guy. and what's happening in the Volga military district. Again, because almost all our options are closed down here. And we'll take this guy back. And again, I don't really know why I'm wasting these RPs on those units except to demonstrate how it works. Okay, Western MD, we have 2 infantry RPs. So what can we get? Let's get a naval rifle brigade. And we'll confirm that and come back around. And finally, to the Eastern military districts, we have 6 infantry RPs available, and we'll run in here and we'll take a couple of these guys and bring them back, and we'll resurrect them. We'll close that down, and now that's it. We've now used up all of the armor and artillery RPs from the general pools, and for each individual military district we have used up all of the infantry RPs at each one of those. So that really concludes this truly exciting tour of how the factory system, special replacements, reinforcements, conditional reinforcements, and ordinary replacements with resurrecting eliminated units from the replacement pool, as well as rebuilding cadres that are still on the map. It's how all those things are currently working in my Blitz 41 implementation of Fire in the East. At this point, I would click right here to end the replacement phase, and we would move on to the next stage of the game. But instead, I'm going to say that's enough for now. Thanks for taking a look at this, and I hope that you are enjoying your gaming. Take care.